Tu matatia, tu ramatia, te tuapapa o te matatu Aotearoa. Ki runga, ki raro, ki uta, ki tai. Koia ko te manaakitanga, te whanaungatanga, te pono, me te whakamana i te ako. Homi e, hui e, taiki e. E titi, e tita, e nā iwi katoa. Tēnā koutou katoa. Nau mai ki tēnei piringa rauhuia, ki tēnei hui nā korero, whakatau mai rā ki tēnei tere nā rauhuia, leading for innovation. Ko Roseanne London tōku ingoa, ko Aotearoa o ngā tohu mātua mō te matatu Aotearoa. My name is Roseanne London, and I am one of the senior advisors at the Teaching Council. Welcome to the second symposium in our Leading for Innovation, Empowering Teaching Teams to Adapt and Thrive series. This series is all about equipping leaders with strategies to create resilient, future-focused teaching environments, spaces where collaboration, curiosity, and adaptability thrive. Today's session, Leading Reflective Practice, Cultivating Innovation in Teaching, explores one of the most powerful levers for change, reflective practice. When reflection is nurtured collaboratively, it becomes a catalyst for innovation. Our focus is on how leaders can guide teams through strategic, responsive, and learner-centered reflection, building collective capacity and driving meaningful, sustained improvement. Together, we'll consider practical ways to create conditions where teachers feel safe to inquire, challenge assumptions, and lead change. By fostering psychological safety and professional courage, we can empower teaching teams to adapt confidently and creatively to the complexities of contemporary education. Nau mai kia piri, nau mai kia tata, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. It is now my pleasure to introduce two remarkable educators who are co-presenting today, Cathy Diggins and Angela O'Connor. Cathy Diggins brings over 40 years of experience in education, spanning early learning, schooling, and initial teacher education. For more than 2 decades, Cathy has served in the Ministry of Education, contributing to operational roles, the Best Evidence Synthesis Program, and quality teaching initiatives with both implementation and policy. She is currently part of the Pacific Policy team, where her enduring commitment to equitable education continues to shine. Cathy's work is grounded in a deep belief that every learner deserves the best possible educational experience, and she has been fortunate to collaborate closely with Angela O'Connor in growing teacher capability. Angela O'Connor also has over 40 years of experience in the early childhood sector, beginning as a trained teacher, kindergarten teacher, and progressing through roles as teacher, head teacher, senior teacher, and manager of a community-based early learning service. Her career has included work in initial teacher education and education consulting, with a strong focus on supporting early learning service leaders in developing appraisal systems and fostering self-directed professional learning. Angela's practice has always been rooted in reflection, both in her own growth and in nurturing the growth of others. Now semi-retired, she continues to support early learning leaders and maintains her connection with tamariki as a reliever in both early learning services and junior primary settings. Together, Cathy and Angela bring a wealth of knowledge, passion, and lived experience to this korero. We're privileged to have them share their insights with us today. Nau mai, haere mai, Cathy and Angela.
Kia ora tātou, ka nui ngā mihi ki a tātou, tolo whalawa, malua lelei, kambani Māori, taloha whānei. It's lovely to be here with Angela and with all of you today. ko wai au i ngā wā o mua no airane o ku tupuna i te rawa, ko Lorne te awa, ko McGillicuddy's Reeks ngā maunga, ko Kiloglan te kainga. I tēnei wā, e noho ana ahau ke roto i papararangi i Poneke rānei, e mahi ana ahau ki te tāhuhu o te mātauranga. Kia ora.
Tēnā koutou katoa. It's a great privilege to be here today working alongside Cathy and being able to present our thoughts to you all. Ko Pearl Te Waka and Aroa Ngā Moanga, ko Araki Rā ko Murchison, ko Karateri ki Tūteki Te Awa, ko O'Connor taku whānau, ko Stephen Braid taku hoa rangatira, ko Te Noho Aho Anaine ki Seadown, ko Angela O'Connor Aho. Right. On Reflection, the book that Cathy and I wrote in 2002, was put together as a tool to understand professional reflection on practice. It was set in a time when kaiko were just coming to learn about reflecting on practice. And in the late 1990s, we were grappling with te whāriki and the DOPS and the changes that were happening there on a regular basis. And we looked to see that people needed some guidance to actually understand where reflection started. We wrote this book as a tool for beginning to reflect on practice. And for many, we hoped that it would just get them underway. And we worked on the theory of unpacking what we read in the thick books to put it into something manageable for teachers to use. And one of our thoughts is that it could be used on a Thursday night. And so we deliberately kept it simple there. But over the years, as everybody has gained experience, we now see the need for us to go much deeper into reflecting on practice, and that has actually now become leading us into sophisticated professional inquiry. The foundation documents for the profession had a significant change in language come through. Initially, there was talking about reflection, but now it's moved on for people to have in-depth critical inquiry. We see the change in language and the standards for the teaching profession, and even in the shift from an appraisal to a professional growth cycle. And the Leadership Capability Framework also, you'll see there, talks about us having teachers working together to share knowledge and inquire into practice. So the notion of critical inquiry now starts to move forward, but it's remembering at the same time that the basis of critical inquiry is ongoing reflection. And it's that standard, that basis, where we are still focusing our work today. And what we're presenting to you today is actually, we're looking at what we can give for individual inquiry, because while there are group inquiries, each individual needs to be able to reflect and inquire into their own practice as well.
I'm very lucky to be here with Angela and very grateful for the opportunity to talk to you all. The focus on sophisticated professional inquiry has been seen by lots of researchers and writers, but also by practitioners as an advance on reflection. But it doesn't remove the requirement for reflection. In fact, it's underpinned by learning how to reflect. At the same time, we've seen so much change and continue to see that change happening today. And our contact text for teaching and learning, whether in early learning or in the schooling sector, continues to change. We know from a raft of research and evidence gathered together in various syntheses, including the work by Helen Timperley and John Hattie and Halberg and Kaiser and a range of other people. You can find the references at the end of the presentation. We've read a lot from them about teacher learning and the need for this to be not a destination but an ongoing journey, and both a self-directed and collective process that can be enhanced by PLD and bringing in colleagues but also external expertise. As a learner, when you're focused on improving practice to have positive impacts for the learners you work with, that changes your focus from perhaps looking only inwardly, which we were worried about when we've thought back about our text on reflection, and gets people to look at what are they doing to manage positive impacts for the learners they're working with. And it acknowledges the diversity of learners that we might be working with in our practice. Learners who have a wide range of interests and a wide range of needs, and about which we need to really understand if we're going to reach them through our teaching and enable their learning. To be a sophisticated professional inquirer, which sounds really flash, what you need to be able to do is look at your practice and think about the impact of that practice on the learners that you're working with. And it expects that if you are a professional inquirer, that you are going to look at yourself and think about the routines you've got in place, the assumptions that you make, and the everyday practices that you almost might not see, to get you to look at them from a different angle and think about them again, so that this process of reflection, observation, information and data gathering, feedback, including external expertise, can actually support you to better understand your teaching practice, change it if you need to, and then work out whether the changes you're making are actually benefiting learners or not. And if they're not, it's great to know that, because then you can do the process again and make more changes. So let's think for a minute about what the benefits are of such a process. It, as a process, is seeking ongoing change and improvement in practice. It's focused on learners, but acknowledging that in order for learners to be well served by teaching, teacher learning and transformation needs to happen to achieve change, both for teachers and for the learners that they're working with. So it asks us to be really resilient, to make a genuine effort to be willing to take on feedback, and thinking about Thursdays in the afternoon, not necessarily the time when you either want to read a textbook or get some pointed feedback. However, when you can recognise your own defensiveness and your own resistance, that's the first step to making a change and identifying those areas that you're strong in and those areas that you need to improve. And the things that are particular benefits, I think, that really the reduction in focusing on only your own practice and what it means to you, and also can reduce the likelihood that you avoid dealing with the things that are uncomfortable. In fact, embrace some discomfort in order to make the change that both your practice and your learners' learning might need.
Our need to have an understanding of the purpose of inquiring into their practice. And this is what leaders and others providing PLD need to foreground to help sustain a culture of inquiry. Each point on this slide is at the centre of all teaching. If something isn't working, you have to change what you're doing. The same solutions bring the same problems. Kaiako have to be flexible, responsive, and ready to change throughout their careers. It's not only beginning teachers who need to be inquiring and growing their practice, but all teachers to ensure they're teaching the right thing to the right people. This is what Kaiako want to do, so how can we make it work? How do we go from the theory to what we can do to make a difference? Here are some considerations and tools that we think you can use to help make it work. They're drawn from a combination of documented theory, experienced teaching and supporting kaiako, to develop, as well as many discussions with colleagues and kaiako. In many cases, kaiako are completing their inquiry because they have to. For example, to complete the PGC, to get registration signed off, pay progression, and even the ever-present shadow of the next Ero visit. In many cases, these are held over kaiako as the main reason for inquiring into their practice, but these are extrinsic motivators, and we know that carrots and sticks don't work to motivate people. In his book Drive, Daniel Pink reminds us that for individuals to be intrinsically motivated, there are 3 key features to consider. To give kaiako autonomy, they need tools to help them to be able to complete their inquiry in ways that work for them and make sense to them. One model does not work for everyone. They need to feel a sense of mastery, which requires access to information, systems and tools, support from more knowledgeable peers, and access to external expertise when required. Each kaiako needs acknowledgement of their current capability and a level of inquiry that will support them. Everyone needs to start from where they're at, not where the theory says they should be. We need to work within their zone of proximal development, or their Goldilocks space. Not too easy, not too hard, just right, to stretch them to the next level. The conditions must be in place to help kaiako see that inquiry is purposeful, meaningful, and manageable. Changes in practice are one aspect of teaching or a subject area. It influences overall practice when kaiako are intrinsically motivated and focused on improving their teaching. I saw the most significant changes in teaching practice when kaiako was supported to identify a goal that they had connected with and on an aspect of their practice that they were interested in. It is in the PGC where inquiry happens. Characteristics that we see to support this include having meaningful goals. Goals that target areas of practice that will support them across all aspects of their teaching. Curriculum subject goals such as I'm going to do te reo or structured literacy, while supporting knowledge and practice in that single aspect of their teaching, we do progress further when we have a practice goal, such as what teaching strategies will help all learners to engage in learning, will support all curriculum and subject areas, and the strategies that kaiako develop will be evident throughout their teaching. You see their confidence and competence grow. Goals defined by schools or services will suit some, but not all. I was introducing enviro schools in a kindergarten association. It was my passion, and so I thought it could be the basis for kaiako inquiries. Goals like, what strategies can I use to engage whānau and tamariki learning? And the enviro schools, kaupapa. But some teachers responded saying that their need and passion was growing social competence. They had to be let to follow their passion and their inquiry. Timeframes that are meant to support PGCs often stifle inquiry. Kaiako do what they can within the time frame or have a big rush in the days before a deadline, rather than truly slowing down to research best practice and best changes, and then testing these and revisiting. Annualised PGC goals can limit Kaiako ability to fully inquire into their topic. We must acknowledge that growth does not have a time frame. It can be slow, and this requires an environment of trust and ongoing discussion on inquiry.
This is just really a prompt from us to not only thinking within a service or within a classroom or school, but thinking about the broader environment that impacts inquiry on a daily basis. And we wanted to just remind everyone that we also need to look at how do we create that environment that Angela's been describing that's meaningful and practical. Often there are a range of influences that may seem quite beyond what kaiako can respond to, and we also know that there's a lot of reactive ask or requirements on teachers kaiako every day, whether it's reacting to what's going on with the tamariki mokopuna or whether it's reacting to what they're being asked to do by other staff. So when government changes, there can be really significant changes to the environment that education's happening in. And you can probably look at our simple diagram of a range of things that might influence what kaiako are needing to do, and think of something that's impacting you or your provision or your ability to have time to have a focus on a critical inquiry. So when we know that we're being asked to do new things because of a change in policy or funding in response to a particular social issue, either in our regional environment or nationally, when we also know that we're even in our class or in our service, we've got potentially constant change going on, it requires acknowledgement of the new learning and the time that it takes, which Angela pointed out before. And kaiako want to make changes, but it consumes a lot of energy. So acknowledging that time that we, as people who might be facilitating that change, think things should happen quickly. But if we go at the pace of the people we're working with, that change will be embedded. It won't be driven by something external, and it will be sustained. So we'll have people in a constant cycle of development rather than in a narrow, I've got to do this for an external reason focus, I suppose. The current environment means that some families are really doing it hard, and you will have heard a lot about that in the media lately, and that children, tamariki, are presenting often with complex issues that need to be supported. All of these things impact on the time that it takes to be able to focus on the kind of inquiry into practice that will make a difference for all of those learners. And so we're going to work on another slide now from Angela that will help us to think more about how that can be framed for kaiako who may feel like they're at the end of what they can manage already.
I think if we look in here, that I did talk a little about that before. I actually skipped a slide, sorry, Cathy, that we need that autonomy, mastery and purpose from what Daniel Pink said to have our kaiako truly motivated to be completing their inquiry in a meaningful and purposeful way. And these are the conditions that we need to have to support our inquiries, to have meaningful goals, open timeframes, and to be thinking about the pace that we go at. As Cathy said, We have curriculum changes that come in. Many in the primary sector you're working on now with structured literacy and with structured maths, and they tend to occur in set timeframes and move quickly. So kaiko have to be responsive to meet those timeframes, as opposed to inquiry, which requires kaiko to slow down and reflect and critique. And this is the gap that we start to see, is that we need sort of two gears, one for what we have to do and one for our inquiries. Conversations help clarify and strengthen practice, and support from more knowledgeable colleagues so that we can use more than one mind to move practice ahead. PLD is often not available at the time when it's needed in an inquiry. Online resources can fill this need, and at the end of this presentation we've put a list of some of the New Zealand-based websites that you can go to for additional theory and information to support your inquiry. And there's books and journals and libraries. We need to keep in mind that PLD doesn't only occur in face-to-face presentations. If we go now and look at the key features of a reflective model, these are quite obvious to most of us, I'm sure. It's looking at that background description, keeping that sort of brief, because the real magic occurs in the analysis, which is the trickiest part, as we challenge what we're doing and thinking and believing. And then the next two steps of planning and implementing change. Benjamin Franklin says, failing to plan is planning to fail. So developing a detailed plan of how you're going to change your practice is important. It'll feel clunky to begin with, but it'll help you get it right and in the long run save time. Change is the most important factor. Reflection without change is merely wondering and doesn't grow practice. And revisiting to find if change has helped may lead to needing to tweak some things or redeveloping your plan. But there are many models for reflection, and it's really important that you find the right one for you and a compilation and have these for your inquiry. The first model that we wanted to share with you is writing to learn. And this is a model that I developed with a colleague from Interlee Consultants, Liz Dupree, so I acknowledge her role in this. We need to start with a clear intention, why you're actually writing a reflection. And you need to have followed with a growth mindset. It's being open to learning about your practice. You document what you've noticed about your practice, and you'll recognise now the notice, recognise and respond from assessment. Again, we need to plan and implement your plan and revisit, and really be thinking in here when we revisit to capture the effectiveness of the changes through ongoing reflection. And this is also where you can document evidence of your engagement with our code, our standards, and have it there so that you know when it comes to registration time that you are meeting all the standards. Our next model is one that's probably familiar to many of you, which is the spiral model of reflection. And within that, it highlights that teaching is action. So the first thing we do is select an action that we're going to focus on, name it, and then reflect on it about the impact that might be having for your practice or your learners. And then it's researching, referring to theory to broaden your thinking. Sometimes that word research is a bit scary, but it is actually just about finding out more. Again, plan and act the action of implementing your plan. And the spiral process leads to just an ongoing process, and it supports you to go deeper and grow practice over time. The reflective conversation is one where kaiako have an open discussion about a situation with a trusted colleague. The conversation explores events and theories that affect teaching practice. The first 3 questions we have here begin the conversation. What are the factors contributed to this situation? I've been in discussions where kaiako are in the middle of a situation, easily come to focus on one aspect, maybe like a child's struggle with social competence, when I could see other aspects that were impacting and were often easily fixed. For example, it was nearly lunchtime and Jane was hungry, or hangry, as they say. The table was crowded. She couldn't reach the resources she needed. That was perhaps where her social competence wasn't strong enough to manage. After participants become comfortable with this process, the last questions can be directed at the teacher's practice. What did I do to contribute? Going back to Jane, I assumed she hit because she wanted everything her own way. Maybe she was frustrated. These conversations provide multiple voices and views of teaching, helping kaiako to view their practice from new perspectives. And it also means that values and assumptions can be identified and having 2 minds to work towards a solution. It's actually an exciting part of inquiry, and I feel it's the place where I learnt the most, and furthermore that everybody that I was working with progressed the most as well. These are really just a sample of ways to reflect on practice. I encourage you to look for what works for you and ask questions until you understand the process you're using. Work with your mentor to develop and process and develop a strategy that works for you. Change wording to help it make sense. It's your practice that you've got to grow, and you have to do it in your way. To finish off, we really, within the 30 minutes, tried to just give you an overview of what you can do and some strategies you can put in place and things to be aware of to support teachers to be going deeper in their inquiries and really developing their skills for reflecting on their practice. There are many other strategies that can be used and a lot of resources that we have here that you can access, and certainly you could contact us for maybe some help, but to help to grow practice. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ngā mihi nui kia korua, mō tō korua korero whakawewea. Thank you both for a powerful presentation. You took us way back to the 1990s, reminding us how kaiako adapted through change, learning to reflect, inquire, and grow. Your insights on showed us how purposeful reflection leads to meaningful impact for our tamariki. You named the tensions that kaiako face today and reminded us that true inquiry is not compliance. It's a human process driven by purpose. You challenged us as leaders to create space for deep, courageous reflection. So thank you. Thank you for your time and your passion and your commitment, Angela and Cathy. Now, I'd like everyone to take a moment to write down or think about your thoughts on Cathy and Angela's presentation. These can later help spark your korero in the breakout rooms. So firstly, what resonated with you from Cathy and Angela's presentation? And did you note any leadership strategies that you would like to find out more about and why? Okay, it is now with great pleasure that I introduce Rachel Denny and Sarah Ryan, two educators whose work exemplifies thoughtful leadership and deep commitment to professional learning in early childhood education. Rachel Denny is an academic and educational leader with 25 years' experience across the ECE sector. Her teaching and leadership background informs her research as a lecturer in ECE at Victoria University of Wellington, where she focuses on leadership, professional learning, and visual arts pedagogy. Rachel also serves as a pedagogical leader at Daisy's Early Education and Care Centre, a centre known for its legacy of innovation and research. At Daisy's, Rachel helps lead a culture of distributed leadership, mentoring, and critical reflection, grounded in a professional learning community approach. Sarah Ryan has been a qualified early childhood teacher since 2005, with over a decade of experience at Victoria University ECE Centre before joining Daisy's in 2019. Her teaching has primarily focused on infants and toddlers, and more recently, older ngā tamariki. Sarah has recently stepped into the role of head teacher at Daisy's Te Pihiringa, where she continues to foster reflective practice and collaborative learning among kaiako. In today's presentation, Rachel and Sarah will share their centre's approach to professional growth cycles for kaiako. Their model draws on a professional learning community research and effective strategies for collaborative professional learning. Through small group inquiry, kaiako engage in a cycle of reflection, research, innovation, evaluation, and sharing, all in the pursuit of creating excellent learning contexts for ākona. Nau mai, haere mai, Rachel and Sarah.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Rachel Denny tōku ingoa. I am very grateful for this opportunity to talk to you about our approach to reflective learning through group inquiry at Daisy's. As Roseanne said, my day job, my full-time role is as a lecturer at Te Rīringa-Waka, Victoria University of Wellington. But I'm also privileged to have this role as pedagogical leader at Daisy's alongside Sarah and the team. And this opportunity to put these theoretical ideas into practice, and we are really glad to be able to share this story of one way of doing a professional growth cycle. First of all, I'm going to talk to you about the background of how we designed our approach back in 2021, the 4 phases of our professional growth cycle approach, and some reflections about it. And then I'm going to pass over to Sarah to tell a rich story of one PGC inquiry. So in 2021, the Teaching Council moved from expecting an individual appraisal with individual portfolios towards a professional growth cycle approach. And like many people, we weren't exactly sure what that would look like. So we set out to think about what we might like to do with this new opportunity at Daisy's. And we already highly valued professional dialogue amongst kaiako and also had a view of teachers as researchers. So we were excited about this opportunity to think about how to intentionally prioritize those things in our practice. There were 4 concepts that were really important to us in this process. First, distributed leadership. We've always had a really strong commitment to distributed leadership at Daisy's since we opened 17 years ago. And this aligns with the Educational Leadership Capability Framework and the way that the Teaching Council expects all professional kaiako to enact leadership in their practice. Research shows that distributed leadership strengthens professional learning and helps teachers to feel motivated and committed to build confidence and build a positive team culture. and that everyone benefits when kayako have the opportunity to lead in areas that are interesting and meaningful to them. The second concept that we were very excited to play around with at Daisies was the idea of a professional learning community, or PLC. This involves kayako having time to discuss and reflect, to try practices out and share ideas. And the PLC approach requires regular time to meet over time, having a common purpose or shared focus. It needs resources and really works well when there's a shared leadership approach. And this approach offers ideas about how we can structure collaborative, teacher-led professional learning that's focused on practice. The third concept that we looked at was an inquiry cycle or spiral of inquiry, and Cathy and Angela touched on that in the previous presentation. There is plenty of literature on inquiry cycles, and it is across all sectors of education. The inquiry cycle or spiral, it tends to start with scanning for current issues, deciding on a focus, finding out more, trying new practices, and then evaluating. And this provides us with a kind of roadmap, helping kayako to step through phases of research and reflection without getting lost along the way. And finally, reflective practice, which I feel Cathy and Angela have done a thorough job of explaining to you how important this is and how integral critical reflection is for an inquiry approach or professional inquiry. I'm noting there that also we need to think about how reflecting on our teaching practice with colleagues requires courage. So there is a need for a sense of safety, relational trust, and a supportive team culture to allow kayako to really engage in critical reflection together. So I wanted to give you a little background. Before we begin the PGC each year, the whole team engages with the quality practice template and thinks about how we are doing in all of these areas. What are our current strengths? What are the areas for development that we can see across the standards and across the curriculum? And this helps us to develop a foundation of shared understanding about where we're at as a team. The whole team then have the opportunity to put forward ideas for PGC focus. And the team are expected to be able to articulate why their idea is relevant to our learners, our place, and this moment in time. Then the education leadership team look across these ideas that have been proposed and think about which ideas are rich with open-ended possibility for professional learning, and also which align with our strategic goals and our philosophy. And at that point, the education leaders might also contribute one or two additional ideas. And then the team, kayako, are able to choose which focus areas they're most interested in, and we create small PGC rōpū around different topics. And importantly, and aligned with what Cathy and Angela were saying, this means that teachers are setting out on a journey with an idea or a focus that's really interesting to them, that they've had some agency in thinking of, and some choice about what they're going to focus on. Okay, so our model that we designed has got 4 phases, and I'm going to describe each of these to you and then gladly hand over to Sarah to tell you a much more interesting story of a real PGC inquiry. But bear with me as I go through some rather text-heavy slides to explain this. There are 4 phases: the idea, innovation, implementation, and impact. In the Fui, kayako are asked to think about the idea in focus, and why is this important? How does it align with the standards, with te whāriki, with our philosophy? And how are we doing in this area currently? What are we doing well? What might we develop next? Then they plan their research, thinking about what resources might support this research, readings, webinars, experts who they might go and talk to, and then plan who's going to lead or contribute to each aspect and which area each person will investigate and share back. At the second meeting, this is where everyone comes back into their rōpū and shares all of their findings from their research. What new ideas or key ideas really stood out? What are the most relevant ideas to us at Daisies? And what new or creative approaches can we identify from our research? What specific actions might we try out? This is also about planning and deciding the next phase. Do we need any extra support or resources or systems, and who's going to take responsibility for which parts? The next stage, which we call implement, is around practice and dialogue, and this now has 3 hui. So this phase we cycle through 3 times within each small group. And in this meeting, the teachers will discuss what they've tried, how it went, what influences, barriers, and enablers they encountered. What have they learned from trying this out? What new information do they have? And thinking about which things might we carry on with, what might we make changes to, and making some commitments about the next step of trying these things out in practice. And then cycling around again to the beginning of this meeting 3 times. Finally, the last hui that's planned is about impact, and this is evaluating what were the outcomes for our learners and for our community. How effective were these practices over the past several months? How have we influenced tamariki learning, well-being and engagement? And what do we think we might carry forward as part of our culture and our practice in the whole team? And then each rōpū is expected to develop a brief presentation back to the whole team. That can be a poster or a single slide, and they present back some actions and ideas that they would like to see shared or adopted across the whole Daisies team. And that is quite a wonderful celebration at the end of the PGC to hear from all of the different rōpū. In developing this presentation, I was reflecting on the past 4 years and why this feels like a sustainable and interesting approach. I think an important point is that we have been evaluating and making small changes to this system every year, and we continue to do that. And overall, this has lasted across time. We can see teaching practices that have become an embedded part of Daisy's pedagogy and culture that have come past PGC inquiries, and that's very satisfying that these things are meaningful and sustainable. We think that having the PGC meeting time scheduled is really able to make it happen. Having the organisation and systems planned to allow the teachers to be supported and to be given the time and to be helped along in order to not lose the thread of the inquiry. And we also wanted to note that for kaiako certification, we do still have annual appraisal meetings and observations, and each kaiako is required to write an individual reflection on the standards for that appraisal meeting. I really love this quote from Timpoli et al. Creating the conditions in schools and learning settings where curiosity is encouraged, developed, and sustained is essential to opening up thinking, changing practice, and creating dramatically more innovative approaches to learning and teaching. And I think that word curiosity is really central to this whole approach. These are some references and resources for those who like to go away and read more. And I am very happy to hand you over now to Sarah Ryan, who is the wonderful head teacher at Te Pekinga. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Rachel. Well, kia ora koutou, talofa lava, bula vanaka, malolele, kia orana, ko Sarah aho, and I've been teaching at Daisy since 2019, being a teacher at both whare, and now head teacher at Te Pekinga, which is our over threes whare. Kia ora. I'm just going to give you an example of a PGC that I've worked on over the last year. It was we got a lot out of it, and I'll share that with you. So we started this back at our wānanga last year. We launched this PGC, and in our allocated groups of about 3 kaiako that are mixed up between the 2 whare, we discussed the inquiry focus and filled out this template that's pictured. And so throughout the PGC cycle, as Rachel talked about, there's 6 meetings in total, and each one has this template of prompts and questions for discussion to think about during our professional growth inquiry. So we also have a Google Drive with Daisies, and so each PGC group has a folder with all these templates in that you can fill out while you're having your hui, or write by hand and then take a photo of and then put it into the drive. So all the documentation for our professional growth cycle is all in one place. So Tangata Moana Values was an inquiry focus that was presented by the educational leaders. So in this professional growth cycle, there were other ropu that were working on inquiry focuses such as best sleep practice, social justice, toi tū te reo Māori, and how does behaviour communicate needs. And those were suggested by kaiako. But tangata moana values was a gap that was identified in our pedagogy. So it was important for our educational leaders to bring that as a focus inquiry for our professional growth cycle. So for our first meeting, and I worked with 2 other kaiako, Elise and Hannah, and they were actually kaiako at the whare that I don't work at, so it was really nice to collaborate with them and develop our professional working relationship between the 2 whare as well. So we looked at what we had done in the past. So we have always acknowledged language weeks. We've had a Samoan Ainga Lonas and Upite Whale board, which we made some group art using, and it's still displayed in our space. It's beautiful. And then also in a previous investigation, on community, Ropu Iti created a te vaivai that each individual and kaiako of the Ropu had contributed to. So we had sort of touched on some things previously. So in our first meeting, we identified these areas of growth. So we'd already dabbled in some art hui, but we wanted to grow this for our Daisies community as well. We wanted to gain more knowledge and understanding of the values of tangata moana. We understood that there could and would be some differences between the different Pacific cultures, and we wanted to consider this too. We wanted to have more language and song and dance, and there were definitely areas we wanted to improve on at Daisies. And then we also felt like we wanted to build on our dress ups and our cultural artifacts for play for our ngā tamariki. So Elise and Hannah and I, we made links to what teaching standards we believed we would delve into in this PGC, with the focus inquiry of tangata Pacifica values, and we identified a learning-focused culture and making a commitment to learning about tangata moana values. We identified professional learning, inquiring and reflecting on practice, and then of course design for learning, putting our knowledge and what we learn throughout our PGC into practice and the implementation of it all. We also made links to our Daisies philosophy and values, so whanakitanga, learning and growing, hihiritanga, which is an enthusiasm for learning, which is a really important value for Daisies. And then, of course, manaakitanga, inclusiveness and acknowledgement of tangata moana and their special place in our Daisies community. Also, throughout our PGC, we use these 3 documents that are pictured. So tapasa, of course. We used Valuing Our Values, Pacific Educators Speak, and Niho Taniwha, specifically Chapter 13, which is Insights into Improving Teaching and Learning for Pacifica Tamariki. And then I want to give these mihi as wonderful tools we used and will continue to use, and also with greater whakaaro now. So after our first meeting, where we discussed all those things that we thought we'd like to implement and know about and what tools we might use, we went away and we did some research. And so we audited what resources we had, which was very little. As I said, we used the Google Drive folder to make Word documents and sort of brain dump what we found and what we learned and make notes and make reflections. Elise found readings in her study and added excerpts from that explained a bit about tangata moana values. Hannah made an audit and notes of what resources we had, like ngā puka puka, and I looked at different values in different places, and I actually found Te Ara, the Encyclopedia of New Zealand, really handy for learning about different Pacifica values. And then any info we learned, we added to our notes. And then from this data we gathered, we identified key ideas of tangata moana values that we had noticed throughout our data gathering. So there was the value of play, the value of service, and for example, service and respect for elders, that elder people were valued by younger, similar to tuakana taina way, that the community aspect of early childhood education was valued as well. We noted that we needed more resources and that we wanted more Samoan language in our daily Daisies practice. So at this innovation meeting, our second meeting, we wanted to experiment in practice using more Samoan language and song, we wanted to use more words, Samoan words like anga for family. And we wanted to plan an action, hauiako, for a Samoan whānau, anga. We have anga for tamariki at Daisy's. We're really lucky to have them all there together. And we wanted for tamariki from that same family. We thought, that's so special, let's acknowledge that. So the action we took was our upete whale huiako. So we made a plan to use the upete whala board from our Samoan anga. This was loaned to us the year before for the Samoan Language Week, and then I think it was re-loaned to us. But we wanted to use it together with this whole anga outside, and specifically for our professional growth cycle as a great opportunity to emphasize that value of family, of belonging, of respect for their culture, and then also leadership came into it. In that we have a long-term reliever, Nia, who's Samoan, and throughout our data gathering stage as well, I had been talking with her about tangata moana Samoan values and acknowledging her expertise and knowledge and the mana that she brings to Daisy's with her being Samoan. And she taught us how to use the upete whala board properly because we hadn't actually been using it the right way. So we all learned something. It was amazing. We played Samoan music and Nia talked in Samoan with the tamariki. It was a really beautiful time of everyone contributing and being together. And I just wanted to share this beautiful quote from Pacific Educators Speak, Valuing Our Values. Attending to the value of respect means acknowledging that each person holds the mana of their forebears and showing respect for elders and authority. Respect is acknowledging the breadth of knowledge and experience each person brings. Now, by including Nia in this huiako, we brought in her expertise and we showed her respect, and in turn her sense of belonging was strengthened and her confidence in using Samoan was empowered. This huiako was really inspiring, and we had to give the upete whala board back to the anga, but we discussed among ourselves, Hannah and Elise and I, for our PGC, how amazing it would be if we could create our own upete whala board. If Daisy's kaiako could make one as a group experience that we could have and hold and continue to using and upholding this value of anga and community and leadership and belonging using art. Luckily, we had already discussed that we would have Ali Glasgow to speak to us about the Educators Speak Puka Puka and Valuing of Values, and talk about two of the values from that book. And I have been presenting for Rachel's students at Victoria University, which happened to be in the art room where Lisa Tarini was. And it was amazing because I could see there were all these amazing prints and things that looked like upete whala board. And I said to Lisa, do you think we could make it? Do you think teachers could make this upete whala, like a Pacifica stamp? And immediately she showed me, what about these? and there were stamps that students had made with Pacifica designs, and it was easy. It was on camp roll. So we were really lucky that we had a kaiako wānanga coming up that Ali was speaking at, and we could also align that with making beautiful Pacific stamp art too. So we had our wānanga, and we learned about two of the Pacific values with Ali. We learned about respect and belonging in a deeper, more meaningful way. And it wasn't just my PGC, it was all the kaiako together. So that was really special. And then Lisa helped us create these beautiful Pacific stamps that we were going to then go back and use with Ngā Tamariki. It was really wonderful to have this outside expertise come and teach us and share with us about Pacific tangata moana values, but also linking it in with the arts, which is also something that Daisy's really highly values. And from the Educational Leadership Capability Framework is this quote that in the leadership sphere of building and sustaining high trust relationships, curriculum or initiative leaders and expert teachers build and maintain a network of supportive relationships within and beyond the organisation. So it was a great way for us to connect as well with Ali and Lisa and Mihi, their expertise and their knowledge. From this workshop as well, Elise and Hannah and I were very enthused in the learning about the Pacific values, particularly thinking about the idea of belonging. And so we thought, how can we move more in our implementation phase with what we've learned? And so Samoan Language Week was coming up, and we thought, let's have a Pacifica Celebrations Day. And it was an amazing day. We put it out to our anga, to our Daisy's anga, to our whānau. We had music playing, kaiako and Ngā Tamariki dressed up. We used our Pacifica stamps with our Ngā Tamariki. That is a tablecloth on one of our tables that we just keep contributing to and adding to, and Tamariki love identifying which stamp is theirs. We had kaiako and cook us sop sui for us, which was delicious. The children got to eat sop sui cooked by our cook. Young tamariki, our infants and toddlers, helped make pane popo, coconut buns. Nia led us in mili mili patia. And we had a day of greetings and counting in Samoan, and it was a really rich day of celebration. I think it spread that knowledge and acceptance and inclusiveness and enthusiasm for our tangata moana values that we've been learning, and it spread it throughout the whole of Daisy's community. And going through this professional growth cycle, it was really rich in that we implemented, had all these things that we implemented throughout. So we'd meet and we'd implement, we'd meet and we'd implement. But it also meant that we gained a deeper understanding of documents like tapasa, about including identities and cultures and language, and thinking about effective pedagogies for Pacific learners, and understanding that the collaborative and respectful relationships and professional behaviours from kaiako, and then our lovely long-term relievers, that everyone holds value and knowledge to be shared and their mana upheld. It establishes and maintains collaborative and respectful relationships and professional behaviours that enhance well-being for Pacific learners. Our anga tangata moana, their well-being was upheld. They are so, so proud to be Samoan at Daisy's. I think it really links into the Educational Leadership Capability Framework also, in that it's culturally, where we engaged in culturally responsive practice, that we acknowledge the cultural heritage of our tamariki, and then we use this understanding as a strengths-based curriculum and pedagogy, and we involved whānau and others in our community into our inquiry, and it made it a really effective inquiry because we had, although it was the three of us working together, we sought outside support in our inquiry as well. When we came to our impact meeting, the final meeting, this is a quote from Hannah. Pacifica learners are really very proud to be Samoan at Daisy's. And kaiako are more aware of those learners. So it was the three of us working in this PG cycle, but that enthusiasm and knowledge, it spread to other kaiako. The acknowledgement of our Samoan ainga was then upheld with our other kaiako, who would then include this in their documentation and their acknowledgement of the tamariki. So what's our ongoing teaching and learning? We're going to carry on with this because it was such an exciting professional growth cycle, and there's still things that we want to do and implement and carry on with. We feel very enthusiastic about it, not just the three of us who were in this professional growth cycle, but Daisy's as a whole. So we want to use Samoan miai, a blessing. Te purupuru, been using it more frequently, that te pihinga, but we're feeling encouraged to use it ourselves. Other kaiako not involved in this PGC have been weaving Pacific values and ideas and language into their learning stories and into their practice. We have a monthly waiata session, joint session between two whare, and we want to start doing mili mili patia and encourage one of our Samoan ainga to lead the patu, lead some drumming or lead it, and build up that value of leadership and belonging as well. And what's our plans for next year? We're going to continue to strengthen our Pacific Language Week celebration and really want to go deeper into the values that we had learned about from our valuing our values puka puka. There's lots more to learn about, so we're really enthused about learning about some more. It was wonderful to be part of this professional growth cycle. It kept us going, kept us learning, kept pushing us to implement things in our practice, to delve deeper into what we mean by tangata moana values, to hold the ideas of anga, of family, of belonging, of leadership to the forefront for our tangata moana ngā tamariki, and keep going forward with it as a team. And kia ora koutou, here's some references and resources as well. Ka mutu, thank you so much.
I just want to take a moment to thank both Rachel and Sarah for their incredible contributions to this symposium. You've brought such depth and clarity to the discussion on leading reflective practice, and that link with professional growth cycles is so important as well. Your insights on fostering that strategic, responsive, and learner-centered reflection are invaluable. The examples and strategies you shared really illustrated how collaborative reflection can drive meaningful, sustained change in teaching practice. And it's this kind of leadership that builds collective capacity and empowers innovation. Your passion for supporting teachers and commitment to reflective practice truly shines through. Thank you both. Now, can everyone please just take a moment to jot down some notes? What resonated with you from what Rachel and Sarah shared? What challenged you in their presentation? And did you note any leadership strategies that you would like to find out more about and why? We'll just close now with a karakia. Kua e ke runga, kua e ke raro. I runga whakaririhia ki runga. Kia tina, tina. Haumi e, hui e, tai ki e.